As black people, we must determine that this is a condition that we cannot and will not tolerate any longer. Okay? We must make it absolutely clear that we are totally committed to the revolution.
And we are.
That's right. We must view all issues only from the vantage point of what is best for black people. We must be responsible for using our acquired skills to wipe out the obstacles which prevent black people from achieving maximum realization of their innate potential to social, economic, and political growth. We must demand excellence from anyone serving the black community. We must take advantage of our unique relationship to the system and tell it like it is at every opportunity, and so forth.
Want some content? I got hot shit, but I'ma leave it to messy to gossip. Smash the like button, drop some comments, share this video, shout out to my subscribers. Let's get it on the next episode, Swahili TV. It's the Megaphone with Russell Norman. Support the channel.
This is never going. No, let's keep up. Let's keep up. We can make it happen for ourselves. You know, and as Reverend Jesse Jackson likes to say, when we fight, we win.
Yeah. How long have you known Jesse Jackson?
Oh, I guess early on in the breadbasket years, when he was at the campus at the University of Chicago. That's where they first started having meetings over there.
Y'all studied together?
No. I just met him over there.
Got it.
Because we would go. And during that period of time, people went to each other's meetings. I mean, I can remember sometimes on Saturday going to 4 or 5 different places. Okay?
Even by accident.
We'd start at, the first time. We'd start going into breadbasket, and then we had a catalyst meeting at the Parkway Ballroom, and then Lou Palmer had Lou's bookshelf, and we go there, and then we go somewhere else maybe that evening, and I'll talk about a book we were reading or whatever. So it became your life. There wasn't a separation between, okay, now I'm going to take 2 hours and do civil rights. Right. No, it was everything you did all the time. It was a part of everything you did.
Like a lifestyle.
It had to do with where you went, where you worshiped, where you this, where you did everything was where some movement was happening that you felt you were compatible with, you know. And even if we had some differences in approach, there were enough things that we shared in common that we could work on those things. You know, a perfect example of that could be in the construction thing when Breadbasket started the demonstration and the Blackstone Rangers joined. Okay, so here you see 2 groups of people you never would have thought would work together, working to shut down a construction site so black people can get work. Right. You know, so the idea of let's, rather than fall out over the things we don't agree on, let's work on the things we do.
The similarities.
Let's work on the common causes, and maybe some of these other things will work themselves out.
Have you met Jeff Ford and Larry Hoover in your activism?
I met Jeff Ford.
Okay.
Very much so.
At some of those meetings?
Well, I was involved with COCO back in the day. When I went to worked at the Center for Inner City Studies on Oakwood, I went there in 1968. Okay. And everything was going on there. And I'm working with a group of people who are scholar activists. I'm working with Anderson Johnson and Harold Page and Conrad Worrell and Jay Carruthers and all of that. And we don't think that our scholarship is about us just being professors and talking about books. We think it's about working in the community immediately around us. So right down the street from us is what was originally the Oakwood Theater, but it became the Afro Arts Theater under Keelan Phil Coran. Yeah. And then it became the Fort after that. Okay? So we work with
everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to just point it out.
Yeah.
Is Jeff Ford is he, when you met him, was he a nice guy? Like, what was the interaction, if you remember?
Well, I met a lot of the guys who were in the main 21, and I worked with one named Linda Sindali more than I did with Jeff himself. They were starting businesses. They were looking to open restaurants. They were working with the Kimball Oakland Community Organization with Bob Lucas, who was a core person. So I was, he was a man after my heart because he was a core guy. And they believed that, again, you work with the community. You don't try to represent the community. You work with the community. You are part of it. You live on it. You work together. So there were a lot of activities and things that happened of that sort. And there was a lot of cross-fertilization. So Oscar Brown Jr. was a part of that, and he did the play Opportunity Please Not, where he brought in all the young guys who some folks would call gangbangers. He saw all the talent and all of that, and they put on the play Opportunity Please Not, operating out of First Prayers Church, and we went down there and participated in those things. So they gave me a chance to meet people who were, again, living the thing they were talking about, who were doing it. So by example, and a chance to really observe and get involved, because everyone was very welcoming. This was the kind of place where if you're willing to put in work, you can put in work, you can meet whoever. Because they were about the work. And at the Afro Arts Theater, Phil Coran taught classes and everything. They didn't just assume you're going to come ready, roll to do this work. So they did classes even in black manhood, black womanhood. We did classes about what you eat and how you eat, just like Elijah Muhammad and how to eat to live. All those things are happening, and they may look like different groups, and they are different groups in some ways. But, again, coming together around certain of those things. So no matter what, you could be the biggest Baptist in town. You had mad respect for the brothers from the nation. How they presented themselves, what they did, how they felt about the community, how they stood up for the community, how they protected the sisters and all those things. You appreciated those things. And if you had some good sense, you tried to bring them in your work when you could.
Because we all need those allies. So speaking of, you mentioned Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Eat to Live. You've taken on projects and a platform for veganism, right? Or was that vegetarianism?
I don't think I took on either one of those platforms. I've done them both.
I was going to ask you.
I've never been a person where that was a cause that I was associated with. I just was associated because of my friends. And people like Brother Tim and other folk who were really part of, again, another revolution. And so they would bring us along. We had so much respect for each other that we learned things from each other. And I learned about it because I used to always go to the restaurant that the nation had, because you wanted to go where somebody was representing your philosophy.
Is that Salam, that restaurant?
Yes.
Okay, on 79th. Yeah.
And there was a Salam before there on 83rd.
83rd, okay, that was the other one, the original one, right?
And then, there was an original restaurant on 71st Street, just sort of west of College.
Got it.
And then there was Salam on 83rd.
Okay.
And then the one
by Halsted.
By Halsted, right.
Okay, because I was just reading up on you and your bio and some other things, and that's why I mentioned the veganism. And also, you can tell me about the domestic violence work that you've done in the community. You worked to sort of stop domestic violence, right?
Well, I did more in the area of ex-offenders. Again, when I'm at the Center for Inner City Studies, a lot of things happened. And this organization that I told you about, the Catalyst, that I was a part of. Lots of things grew out of association with people, and you just going with what came up. So at the Catalyst, we had something we called Skills Bank. And everybody put into it what they did. So that if you, in whatever your job was, needed somebody, like if I needed a filmmaker then I look and maybe I see Russell Norman and I call Russell Norman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in that skills bank, I was under research because I like to do research.
Right.
So there was a brother that was working for University of Illinois, and he was a catalyst. His name was Jay Jennings, and he got somebody to do research, and he looks at the skills bank, and I'm in there, and he contacts me. You know, we knew each other somewhat from the meetings, but not real well yet. And so he contacts me about a study that they want done and wants to know what I like to do it. And I'm interested in doing it.
Definitely.
And the study turns out to be about adult education in the state of Illinois. They wanted to look at what populations were being neglected in terms of the opportunity for education.
Mm-hmm.
So in the course of doing this study, I discovered that the most neglected population in the state of Illinois when it came to higher education was incarcerated women. Okay? By that time they had started having classes in the men's institutions, but they didn't have any classes in the women's institutions. So it made the light bulb go off for me about an opportunity to start trying to do something in that setting. So I started investigating.
Yeah.
Again, my love for research.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that at Cook County Jail, they got classes for the men, but they don't have any classes for the women. So I come up with this idea, and I asked my colleagues at Northeastern, would they be interested if we could get a program going and teach some classes? They said, absolutely yes. So then Jennings, by now, is at the Illinois Board of Higher Education. He's been moved up.
Mm-hmm.
He says, we have funding.
Wow.
You could apply for a grant. So through Northeastern Center for Inner City Studies, we applied for a grant to teach classes at the Cook County Jail.
The first.
Yeah, for the women.
That was you who implemented that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
So
that's groundbreaking.
we get the funding to
Mm-hmm.
do this,
Mm-hmm.
to do these classes and what have you. And in the course of doing the classes, we find out, you know, we start working with women who didn't get out.
Mm-hmm.
And we start seeing all that they experience once they get out.
Right.
All the ways that they're discouraged, the men as well. But at this point, we're working with the women.
Very tough.
You know, how tough it was for them to get their children back, if their children had been fostered, or whatever. To get a job, for anybody to take another chance on them.
Yeah.
So we formed an organization called Still Doing Time. Because that's what it felt like. Yes, you got out, but it feels like you're still doing time. So that we could work with women to help them get work, to get their kids back, to get this and they get that. And all of that came from the Center for Inner City Studies.
Man, that's a hell of a name for an organization.
Still doing time.
But out of like the history, you were the first person that spearheaded that program to get that implemented. And of course, it's still there today, and it's grown and taken on so many different.
Well, let me tell you how serendipitous things are.
Okay.
I'm teaching at the center. At that point, the program at the Center for Inner City Studies was all graduate students. It was people who pretty much had careers, who wanted to get master's degrees, who wanted to concentrate their work in the inner city. That's why it was called the Center for Inner City Studies.
Right.
So I have a student in my class by the name of Claudia McCormick. And I start talking because we share with our classes things we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I start talking about wanting to do something for women who are incarcerated in the Cook County Jail. Now at this point, the women who are incarcerated are on a single floor of the men's jail. There's no separate women's division like there is now.
Right.
She says, oh, that's interesting. They're getting ready to build a women's division, and I'm going to be the head of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she is a student at the center. She said, I would love to have the program that you're talking about. I would love to have that part of what happens when I walk in the door. Okay? So when the new facility opens, it opens with this program. We're able to start then. We never taught the classes when they were on the floor
Right.
in the men's
In the
facility.
dorm. Mm-hmm.
In the men's facility.
Mm-hmm.
But when they opened the women, and at that time, you know how many women was in there?
How many?
About 100. Period. That was the whole population.
And of course, this is what you meant.
Women in Cook County.
Yeah, and this is what you meant about having a team of friends, allies, supporters,
Exactly.
because y'all all came together
Exactly.
and got the job done.
Exactly, because it come together. So it took my college at the center, it took the student, it took Jennings at the Board of Higher Ed, it took other people to support those kinds of things that it takes if we really work together, and it's part of the organizing.
I know you're being humble, and you're a very humble woman, but can you tell me about some other programs and projects where you were the first, in Chicago and, or, around the country, things that you've done like that?
Well, I think most of the things that I've been involved in with a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a give and take of us with ideas and things to do. Very few things that people say they did on their own, they do on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Even ideas come from exchanges,
Yeah.
and people talking together. So I was able to be a part of a lot of groundbreaking things, again, because of association. Whether that was political campaigns,
Go ahead,
or
name it.
things like starting organizations. I told you I'm working on a book
Mhm.
about the Catalyst.
Yeah.
Well, the Catalyst was an organization of people who were primarily educators and social workers in Chicago, African American, who wanted to assert control over the way they operated in their communities, not by the agencies that they worked for that were often controlled by white boards of directors and what have you.
Right.
We were the bust-out generation in terms of how we were going to take on this work.
Mm-hmm.
So in the course of this, you meet other people, because there were also cultural activists who became a part of this organization.
Who is this?
This is my father and his brother, the two that went to Tuskegee. And my father left and came home, and the brother stayed and finished.
Point your father out one more time.
Number 10.
Number 10.